Thank you, Jeremy.
What's up, buddy?
It's such a pleasure to be here, brother. Seriously.
Yeah, I know how many irons you have in the fire, and I know this is really a pleasure to get an hour of your time to kind of sit down and pick your brain a little bit. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this one, I think.
Awesome.
And before we get started, I do want to mention I got to give you a nice little shout out. Last time we had talked, I requested an autographed T-shirt from John Smith. John Smith is the wrestling coach for Oklahoma State University. And for those of you non-wrestlers out there, he's like a 6-time world champion, Olympic gold medalist, and the current coach. And he's just the greatest wrestler of his time, hands down. And you pulled through, man, and you got me that shirt. And
Jeremy, was not easy to get, my man. Seriously, I had to go through a lot of hoops to get that, but I still remember meeting you for the very first time, and you asked me for that, and I'm really glad that one came through, because not everything I go for comes through all the way, but I'm glad that one did, brother.
Well, I'm surprised he didn't make you go takedowns for one, but
I wouldn't have got it then. So
that's funny. I also want to show you, I still got your little R2D2.
Nice.
I don't know if you were just being nice or if you're actually trying to show off your mad rayology skills, but
thanks, dude.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, we got some new stuff we're doing. I'll try to get you some of the new things we're tweaking with and playing with. So
I'm excited for that. So let's get started, shall we?
Yeah.
And I have to admit, Tyler, I was a little intimidated with this episode. And I mean, if I had some kind of scale that measured one's passion for concrete, I mean, you're up here, man. You're at the top.
You are too, brother. You are too.
I am, but I think you might have me beat. And but so from one passionate concrete lover to the next, what is it about concrete that inspires you the most?
Dude, it's the greatest material on the planet. It's used with local stuff you can dig up in your backyard. So yeah, you have to cook after you dig it up in your backyard. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But you can make it up. You can make it in your backyard. You can make anything. You can make people's lives better. Like it's transformational. It's simple. It's easy. It's economical. It can freaking last generations. I mean, dude, what is there not to love about concrete? It is the greatest material on the planet. And I will battle anyone that thinks differently. Okay, it doesn't necessarily need to be for everything. Like I don't know if I want it my heart stint out of concrete, right? But
right.
But or windows, you know, it's probably not a good thing for concrete, but it's got its purpose. It's just amazing. So I just love that it's so versatile and it's so easy to use and got so many awesome applications.
Yeah, I've every time I get in front of a bunch of high school kids or an audience, I just kind of, promote, our building material does so many different things, and that's kind of what attracts us to it, But one thing that has really drawn my attention to this product is just really simply all the different applications that we actually use for concrete, and to be able to meet those needs with all those different applications with different types of concrete. Self-consolidating concrete, roller compacted concrete, high strength concrete, pervious concrete, flexible concrete. I've heard of self-healing concrete. From a guy that's as passionate as you, what's your favorite type of concrete?
Oh man, I like air and train concrete a lot because I deal with it a lot, and it's so hard to get it right. There's that old saying that even how high the batchman holds their right foot when they hit the air button, that has an impact on the air. And I've done a lot of research on air and train concrete, on freestyle performance, on pumping air and train concrete, on finishing air and train concrete or not finishing air and train concrete. So that's probably my favorite, and that's a cool one. But I also love I love slip form concrete. I think it's so amazing that something can come in a bony, yucky, horrible looking mess, and it goes through the machine and it stands up with no forms or no nothing, and it comes out extruded, beautiful and awesome. I think that's pretty amazing process as well. So I don't know if I had to pick one, but they're both awesome.
Yeah, you talking vertical slip form?
Man, I have all kinds of stuff. I was talking about paving stuff, but I've been doing a lot of 3D printing stuff lately, and it's been a lot of fun. And we're doing it with full size concrete, full size aggregates, no forms. I mean, real world stuff, not this YouTube crap you see with mortar and a bunch of junk like that. I mean, like real world stuff. And so it's made me rethink, relook, and totally appreciate all slip forming, like rails, like grain silos, like like um, you know, pavements, like all kinds of stuff. It just makes me totally just reevaluate and think about how awesome it is.
Yeah, I was on a project for it was a slip form project that I just went out to do some drone footage and take pictures and stuff. And it was really amazing on how long, I mean, as it takes like for this particular project, it was like a 6 or 7 days straight pour, you know, and I can't remember the cubic yards I was in, but just the, you know, it doesn't look like it's that technical, but there's got to be a lot that goes into understanding just the mix design and the equipment and how does this form even going to raise up on itself on
Yeah.
plastic concrete. It's quite the process.
Isn't it amazing? And then, like, I mean, you can build these like 110-foot tall silos in like days. In like 6 days, you can have a 110-foot story building. What? I mean, what is what?
It's crazy.
I mean, seriously, that just blows my mind.
Let's go back to 3D printing real quick. You know, we've talked a lot about it. We do a lot of residential foundations, commercial foundations. Some of the things that we've talked about in-house is, you know, when is it going to be feasible for us to start really truly looking at 3D printing as a kind of an economical form of construction?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what I think the biggest challenge. So I'd love to show you some of the stuff that we're doing, but we're using rebar. I mean, our stuff doesn't look anything different than a normal wall. Like you wouldn't even know it's 3D printing.
Really?
Done. Yeah, it looks.
That's not what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, I know, and we've been working on it really, really hard. Okay, and we use a lot of conventional equipment to do it. Okay, so you don't have to have some big $200,000 printer or anything to do this with either.
What's the mix design kind of look like for those things?
You can order it from a ready mix plant. It's about a 6.5 sack. You got to know that about your aggregation. And there are a few extra admixtures that we use in there that we don't traditionally use inside concrete. Some of them are from the paint industry that help give it cohesion, help kind of hold it all together. But it is, dude, it is sweet. It is sweet. It is, I think it's the future and I think it'll happen. But here's the problem, man. Here's the biggest challenge.
Okay.
We don't like to change.
Yeah, I know.
We don't like to change. We're scared of it. Right?
I know.
And I get it.
We just change forming systems and people get upset, you know?
I hear you. And I get it. We're building stuff for people's lives, right? We're building it for generations. You know what I mean? And we don't want to mess it up. I get it. But I do think for certain applications, I think homes are one of them. I think retaining walls are another one. I think this technology with some tweaks, I'm not saying it's ready to go tomorrow, okay? But I think for a 10% increase in your concrete costs, you could start 3D printing. Okay, right. If you know what you're doing.
What about the equipment?
The equipment is not expensive. Okay. And I think I don't want to give too much away yet till I make some videos about it, but I'd love to talk to you more about it. And but it's not that expensive. It's an add-on to existing equipment.
Well, okay. Everything you're saying is completely different from what I'm used to seeing. I'm used to seeing this machine going around with a bead of grout going back and forth, and it just looks.
And I don't think that's got much future, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
I would agree. Maybe different applications, but definitely not for foundation walls for homes. You know, we actually talked about one of my foundation guys going to precast walls for residential basements. I mean, with the labor shortage, we got to figure out something. Maybe it's modular construction with, I don't know how to get there, but I think you're on the right track trying to go to 3D printing. You know, kind of speaking of which, yesterday, the American Concrete Institute Nebraska chapter hosted a virtual meeting with the current ACI International president, Mr. Kerry Kopczynski. And during the Q&A session, I asked Kerry what he thought as a structural engineer, the biggest innovation, the biggest advancement was in our industry. You want to know what his answer was? Take a guess as a structural engineer.
Pre-stressing or post-tensioning, something like that?
No, I've never heard this answer before, but it was formwork. And I think he's on to a lot there, because form work is a huge cost when we go vertical.
Yeah.
And he's just saying, the forming systems nowadays are just so much more, user friendly. And it doesn't sound like a big jump, but I know from what we used to use, 20, 30 years ago, he's probably spot on. But what would Tyler Lay consider as the greatest innovation and to the concrete industry to date?
Well, I'd say admixtures, and I'd say first of all, air and training admixtures, because if you don't have air and training admixtures, then nothing's going to last outside more than about 10 years. And then I think water reducers. I mean, I think water reducers have helped us reduce our water to cement ratios, get flowable concrete, and not use high water to cement ratios. I think they're really, really powerful. I mean, I guess to add on to that would be SCMs, fly ash. I think they're massive, massive, massive improvement. But if I can only pick one, I'd pick an air and training agent. And I probably a theme, because I said air and training concrete is my favorite kind of concrete. But I have studied that extensively, so that could be why.
Yeah, I hear you there. I know that I'm a big fan of air too. I live in a very harsh environment, so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But on the you talked about SCMs. I know there's a big push right now coming out for limestone cement. What do you know about that?
Oh yeah, limestone cements I think are great. They've been used for a long time. I've tested them a lot. My entire lab is built. I've got a 35,000 square foot lab that's built out of limestone cement. Okay,
Really?
and I'm very happy with it. It can be a little bit different than your normal Portland, but for the most part, it looks, breathes, sleeps, tastes just like Portland cement.
So
So
it's just as pumpable, it's
yep,
just as finishable, just as
yep.
workable.
You might need a hair more water reducer. Okay, you might need a hair more water reducer, but and there are times when the plants are not as dialed in as others. Okay,
Right.
so there are some variation a little bit, but when most of the time you can't even tell. I mean, you don't
Right.
even know what's different.
And what is the replacement? I heard like up to 15%.
They usually they can go that high, but right now they're about 8 to 12,
Oh,
usually
that's not
around
okay.
10%. And so the way it works is they grind the limestone size distribution actually offsets any strength loss. So like, what's he talking about? You grind these little limestone particles in and they help better pack, right? And they help with hydration. So when hydration products go to form, they form on those limestone particles, and they help distribute the glue, the stuff that we care about, the CSH. Right. And so what I just said is there's no difference in strength. There's little bit workability difference. There is, okay, little bit, but not anything significant. Not anything you can't overcome with just a little bit splash more water reducer.
Well, you kind of just said earlier, we hate change, and
right.
And I heard this coming. I was at an ACI board meeting, and they were saying, yeah, we like within a month, everybody type 1, 2 will be out the door. And I was like, what, that fast? Usually it takes a little while once you get the word out, and so, and I kept hearing from the ready mix side that, hey, it's not going to change anything. You won't notice a difference. And I know better than that. So
there'll be a few, but I swear once they get rolling,
yeah,
you'll be fine.
I'll have my guys in the field be the judge of that.
Let me know.
We've
been using it in Oklahoma for more than 15 years.
Really?
God. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe it's not something that's that new to us, but all right, let's talk about my next question. Every teacher I know is very passionate about education, the transfer of knowledge. And I can see that in you, Tyler. The first time I was introduced to you was a video on YouTube called Hydration Theater. And I could tell that you were having a blast, and it was important to you that transfer of knowledge be effective, efficient, and entertaining as well. Let me ask you, would you still have that same passion for teaching if it wasn't about concrete?
I think what you said is really important. I think if you're excited about something, your audience, there's a lot higher chance that your audience will like align with you, get excited as well, or at least understand what's going on. So if I'm going to give a talk about something, then I'm gonna want to make sure that it's something I'm, at least I see what I think's cool about, and I try to express that to someone else. And I would do that with anything. Now, whether I would be as passionate, I don't know, because like there's something just amazing about concrete. I mean, there's just something about life transformational about concrete, and that's I I don't feel that way about everything. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean, and like I like to exercise, and I could give a talk about exercising, but I don't think I quite get as fired up talking about exercising as I do about concrete. But I do give talks sometimes on like, improving yourself, on managing your time, on effective communication. And those are all things that I get pretty excited about, because I want to teach people about those things. And being an engineer, and being just a person that gives back, a builder or whatever, and that opportunity is another thing I get really excited about. So there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about that I get to talk about. So I'm super lucky.
Well, you just mentioned something that I was not aware about you. You talking more like personal development, creating good habits, taking care of yourself. I mean, I just went through a program called 75 Hard. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I don't know.
But it's 75 days of, you got to do certain tasks every day for 75 days. If you miss anything, you start over. But it's a gallon of water a day. You got to work out twice a day. One of them has to be outside. You have to stick to a diet. It can be any diet. Mine was no fast food, no sugar, no alcohol, which was not difficult for me. A little awkward on social settings, but not a discomfort at all. And you have to do these things for 75 days. And it really teaches you that mental toughness. It teaches you, it kind of reflects on yourself to manage your time a lot better, because and you have to read 10 pages out of a self-help book. Right. And so by doing a lot of that self-help stuff, reading about it, learning about it, I got more deeper into that personal growth. And if you're not growing, you're going backwards.
I agree.
Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I didn't realize you're into some of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of the same stuff. I read every day. I work out every day. I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan. I don't know if you're into Tim Ferriss or not. He's got a really, really great podcast. He's done like the 4-Hour Body. He's done like 4-Hour Work Week. He's done like a lot of other books. Tony Robbins, I'm a big fan of his. And so I've done, I take cold showers, and I do a bunch of other crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And I've read a ton of books. Like my whole, a bunch of books over here. And I feel like you, growing is really important to me. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Okay. Mm-hmm. I really think that's true. And I think you can grow in all kinds of different ways. You can grow personally, you can grow, religiously, spiritually, with your love, for your people around you, communication. And so I think there's just so many different places you can do and go things. And YouTube was a great way for me to make a practice where I could communicate my passion, my excitement in like new ways. And I've done 300 videos on there, almost 300 videos on there now, and most of them are about concrete, but I've got a few on some other things on there as well. And it's been fun. And I think it's about that regular practice that matters, Jared. I mean, seriously, it's that I'm going to keep this promise to myself. And the promise is that I'm going to do this and this and this and whatever. And it's something I've been doing a long time, and I'm going to keep doing it.
There's I think it's James Clear, I think is his name. He has the Atomic Habits book.
Yeah, it's a great book.
That. Yeah, really good. Taught me a lot about, starting your day off in the morning and just starting those habits. And mine is a 2.5 mile walk every morning. I get up at 4 and I get that walk out of the way, I think, for 45 minutes of what my day is going to be. And it's really helped me. And I wish I would have learned a lot of this years ago,
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I get up and I jump rope, and I do push-ups, and then I'll journal, and then I write my intentions for the day. Okay. And I plan like just about every minute of the day. Now, they're an intention. That doesn't mean I have to do them. Right. Okay. But that's the plan for the day, and I was excited today. I get to write concrete garb on there we go. Block out the time, take care of it every day.
Well,
And
where did you learn all this? Because, in order for me to learn this, I had to, join a few clubs and listen to other people and, kind of pick up some. Where did you learn how to do this, or what was your desire for personal growth?
um, I was on a trip one day to Oklahoma City with a guy, and he was listening to a podcast or heard was mentioned in a podcast, a Tim Ferriss podcast, and I was like, "Whoa, what's that? Like, what's that about?" Like, and that was when podcasting was just starting or whatever, and so started to listen to it, and I started to realize that there's a lot I can learn from all these people out there,
Right.
and they're like an hour to 2 hour little chunks, and you can hear, and they had books they would talk about, and so I'd write them down and I'd start reading them, and
Yeah.
then I'd get in deeper and in deeper and in deeper, and eventually you start picking up things that work for you, and
Right.
you drop things that don't work for you, and you iterate. And actually, I have a coach, a life coach, and they help me, and I talk with them about every 2 weeks. And you'd say, like, why do you need a life coach? It's like, why don't you
Right.
need a life coach? I mean, like, don't we all want a little help? Don't we all want a little insight and want a way to make things better or whatever? And so they help me talk through things, just get things out of my head, you know what I mean? And put them down, and they have these amazing insights. And man, they're like well trained, I mean, extremely well trained to help out with these things. And so it's really powerful. And I love growing every day, man. I do.
Yeah, I tell
And
you what, things are starting to make a lot more sense to me now because, when you look at somebody and I think successful people might have a different meaning to a lot of other people, but I would consider you successful. And to be successful, you really have to go through a lot of those things,
yeah,
and reading books every day, creating habits, and, just taking care of yourself. If you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of anyone else?
that's right.
And, Ed Milet, do you listen to that podcast?
I don't.
I would highly recommend Ed Milet and another one called The
Oh, I do know.
Burn.
Yeah, I do know Ed. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
know. I
he's
have listened to him. Yeah,
he's
he's
got some
tied into
pretty good
Tim.
guests, pretty good
Yeah.
guests. All right, let's move on to this next section. I'd like the title "When It Dries, It Dies."
There you
And
go.
it's a famous quote from a good friend of ours, Mr. Dave Sikorsky with Ash Grove Cement Company. And one of my favorite playlists on your YouTube channel is on curing.
Right.
And the way you explain curing, such as an open wound, putting a band-aid on an open wound, or putting frosting on the cake, those things are so crucial to learning and understanding concepts. And the way that you teach and present information is very similar to Dr. Ken Hover.
Yeah.
And I know you work real close with Ken. Please tell him his Nebraska friend says hello.
I will.
And I just want to take this opportunity to have Dr. Tyler Lay give his opinion on the importance of curing and the importance it has on concrete. More importantly, the importance of proper curing on exterior concrete pavements subject to de-icers in a freestyle environment.
Wow,
Please,
loaded that one up for me. Okay, so curing concrete is like the last step we do, right? It's we're tired, we're all stressed out, the report didn't go the way we wanted it to, and now we got to cure it. And I just think sometimes we don't do a good enough job when it comes to that. And curing concrete is literally like baking a cake and not icing it. I mean, who would present a birthday cake with no icing on the outside or whatever? Just it isn't right. You can have all the greatest materials, all the greatest construction practices, do everything right, everything along the way. And if you don't cure it, you have that concrete will never reach its true potential. You've harmed it in a way. You've damaged that top surface. You've microcracked it. You have to set that concrete up for success. You have to cure it. You have to keep it warm. You have to keep it moist. And why is that so important? It makes it strong. It makes it more, resistant to, abrasion, and it makes it resistant to outside chemicals penetrating from the outside in. And when you talk about the icer salts, brother, about the only thing you can do is cure that concrete. I think sealers are a good idea too, but sometimes applying sealers on very, very large areas just doesn't work. Okay.
Right.
You got to cure that concrete. You got to set yourself up for success. And so curing is critical, and especially on external concrete, it's going to see nasty. Okay. de-icing salts, etc. Now you do have to have the caveat. If you wet cure or cure really, really well too late in the season, you can cause spalling issues. Okay, you want that concrete to dry out a little bit before it starts to see freeze-thaw cycles. But man, 99% of the time, we need to be curing the snot out of that concrete that's going to see these outside nasty chemicals, whatever. So
yeah, we we used to, when I worked for my first contractor, every winter we would send out letters to all the projects that we did throughout the year and ask them to just use sand and gravel for traction instead of salt.
Yep.
Because we know at an early age, that could be a little bit harmful. I did a nice little salt study in my own driveway where I took a bag right from the dollar store and I looked at what its application rate was, and I weighed everything out. I measured things out exactly.
Nice.
And I'll have to share this with you, but I used 10% of what they recommended as far as dosage. And I think, based on the square feet, I was supposed to use like 80 pounds of de-icer.
Great.
And I think I used 8 pounds of de-icer,
Yeah.
and it worked like a champ.
Yeah.
At 10 to 13 degrees, I think was the weather. Now I think, that's a little bit different, but when I go to the shopping mall and I see de-icers just piled up and you can just see it's all wet because it's just attracting moisture, that's where it is. And the problem with that is the saturation. You talked about
That's right.
pouring in late season. So even with good air, late season pours when it's still fully saturated is not good. But tell you, we don't stop. It just, there was a point in time in our industry where we slowed down during the winter, and now it just seems like we go like heck all the way through it.
Yeah. And there's things you can still do to handle that, but they're a little more costly. You got to pay a little bit more closer attention to it or whatever. And I'll tell you, if we would spend the time to clean our de-icers off the surface, right? After it's done being nasty, come back and wash them all off or whatever, that'd go a long way. I mean, seriously.
Still not real feasible though,
I know. But like, do you want it to be long lasting? I mean, if it's your driveway, would you do it?
Well, it was my driveway and I used 10% of what they told me to, and I just left it. But
there you go. Well, that's fine. But if you need something to really work for you, that's another weapon against it.
When I get on my soapbox, the thing that I see the most, mainly in commercial construction, is they might be curing, but that's not even close to 200 square feet per gallon.
Right.
When you're doing that with a white pig, I mean, if you see any kind of gray, that's concrete and it's not getting that good coverage rate. But to me, we always talk about lack of curing will reduce the strength up to 50% or whatever the case may be. That's really just the strength at the surface, right?
That's right.
I mean, and if it dries, it dies. It's not hydrating. It's not closing up those pores. It may be more permeable to moisture, de-icers, and everything else. And that's just one of the things I keep getting on my soapbox. I teach a ACI flatwork class, and once we get to chapter 9, I literally stand on a chair and preach that whole chapter on curing, because I just think it's something that we can do a much better job of in this harsh environment. May not be as critical in southern climates that don't have freestyle, but
I think it's important, man. I think it's important everywhere, and I think it's not expensive. I did a study that showed a bridge deck. No, we're not all building bridge deck, okay? But the cost of wet curing for a bridge deck was 0.5% of the total cost of construction. 0.5%, and it reduced if you did not wet cure. Okay, it changed the life by 50%. 50%.
I believe it, man. I believe
it. That's what a big deal it is for a bridge deck. But I'll tell you one other really eye-opening experience that we've been doing is we've got a new experimental technique that can measure curing in real time over the depth of the concrete. Okay, so we use electrical rods in the concrete at different depths, and we send signals between them, and we can measure how wet it is. So we can measure the drying in real time, and we can see when you put the cure on, does the water go in? Does it stop the evaporation? Does it whatever? Dude, it is, I'll send you some papers. It's it's really eye-opening. And we're focusing on like wet curing, on different curing compounds. But I'll tell you, those expensive curing compounds like the PAMs, okay,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you guys use that there or not, but it's not the cheap curing compound. It's the most expensive one out there. It's not near as sensitive to coverage rate, and it performs so much better than the cheaper curing compound.
Yeah. When I tell people about curing or specifying it, ASTM C309 curing compounds, but I know that we're starting to get a little bit outside of what liquid membrane curing compounds can do. I just had a meeting with a group called Green Umbrella. Ben Weiss, I don't know if you know him at all.
Yeah, I do.
He was showing, man, I was just pulling it up. I wasn't trying to be rude looking at my phone, but he sent me a video of some initial curing, and he called it pozzolanic glass on the surface. And he literally touched his finger and you can see the shatter, so it's just retaining moisture for that initial cure. And I was just like, man, I thought I seen everything. And so just to see where things are going, I was like, all right, you have my attention, because I was thinking like con film or, your monomolecular, but this is cutting edge stuff, I think. So
yeah, I agree.
But I think you got the greatest job, dude. You're doing all this
thanks.
research and you're on cutting edge. And I mean, I don't know, if I had to go back and do it over again, I might become an engineer, some kind of professor to do all those research.
Should come down and hang out with us, man. You don't have to be an engineer. You just come down and make it happen.
That's right.
Throw some mud with us. It'll be great.
Well, let's talk a little bit about research now that we're talking about that. Being a professor at a major university, I think you obviously conduct a lot of research, and I think I seen somewhere on the internet millions of dollars. And I always remember you for the creation of the super air meter.
Oh, thanks.
And I thought that was the slickest thing ever, because we really need to have a better understanding of how to measure good air, not just total air.
Yeah.
And living in Nebraska in a harsh environment, you can understand my love for good air. What are you currently working on that you're really excited about?
So we got a new test called the Phoenix, right? It measures the water to cement ratio of fresh concrete in 15 minutes. Right? It's sweet. It's like an easy bake oven for concrete. All right. And but it gets pretty hot, and you just take a 4x8 cylinder and you weigh it, and then you dump it in the pan, and then you cook it, and then you weigh it. And you'd say, some people might say, like, well, that sounds like the microwave test. I don't know if you've heard of the microwave test or not, but and so the microwave test is great in theory, but the volume of concrete in the microwave test just isn't enough. It's just too variable. It's too small. So we actually did a lot of work to figure out how much material we needed. So like FHWA came to see my lab, and it was after super air meter, and they said, Tyler, Joggin said this. He said you should work on this microwave oven test. And I was like, really? What? I don't know. I just don't know. And I thought about it. And I said, well, haven't other people done that before? And I just said, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And we discovered the problem with that test, it just doesn't use enough volume. So then once we got enough volume, then it was to figure out a way to do it faster. Dude, you'll love this. We started out, kid you not, with branding irons. We were cooking concrete with branding irons because my granddad's a farmer, cattle farmer, and I never forget the branding iron, right? You even get near the branding, you're like, what? That sucker is hot. Get away from it. So we were using the branding irons to cook concrete, to cook the water out of concrete, measuring it before and after. Yeah, crazy stuff, like insane stuff. But so now we've done this now. It's being used. There's about 15 or 20 of them that are out there right now. And we've done over, like 3,000 mixes that we've done with it. And we've done it on ready mix plants, and it is eye-opening. Eye-opening.
Wow.
Okay? The amount of water that finds its way in, that,
So what kind of variable are you seeing from what the ticket would say as a water cement ratio versus what you're measuring? Is there a huge difference?
Good question. Yeah. So when we went out in the field, we saw that 20% of the trucks that we measured had a water to cement ratio that was larger than 0.03. Most of the time it was about 0.05, more than what was on the ticket itself. Okay. And a great story with that is that it was a ready mix producer that really cared. Okay. And we showed the data and they were like, I don't think that's right, Tyler. I think you've done something wrong. And I said, well, hey, let us come out. Let us help you. Let us look through everything. So we used the Phoenix to test the moisture content of the rock and the sand. Okay. Then we started looking at their trucks and we got a GoPro camera and we put it on a selfie stick, the longest selfie stick you can buy. All right. And we put it in the back of the truck and we started to check their trucks. And you would not believe how much water was being left in the truck. Okay. Sometimes.
Yeah.
They said, did you back it out? I said, yeah, we did. Showed them the GoPro picture. We showed them the images and they're like, oh, So they back out the water. And then things got a lot more consistent. And then at the washout rack, you just got to be a little careful. The washout rack. You don't just go crazy and add water everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when we started to do some of those things, we started to dial things in, we could get that same plant. We could get extremely consistent concrete, like 30 trucks in a row. You should see the data. It's unbelievable. And they were so impressed. They got a Phoenix. They use it all the time. They care. And you can make really consistent concrete. So here's the thing. I'm predicting, right? People are going to be a little scared because you're able to measure something you never been able to measure before. But when you get to the other side, when you get to that consistent concrete, when you get to the point where I'm not sure we should reject concrete on slump anymore, because slump was great and all when it was developed by Duff Abrams, one of my heroes and all, but there's a lot of stuff that impacts slump. We shouldn't be rejecting concrete based on slump. And strength is cool, but you know the strength before it even hits the grade, because you'll know the water to cement ratio, right?
Well, the key is just being consistent. That's what we want as contractors. We want consistency, and a lot of people discredit the slump test, but I always say, if we're pouring a big floor, we want 5-inch, 6-inch slump consistently, or whatever the slump we're asking for. And with water cement ratio, it is so important that what you're doing is solving problems, because how many specifications say maximum water cement ratio 0.45, but are we truly being able to detect the actual water cement ratio? Right. And, when we did a lot of pervious concrete, one of the things that I required the producer to do was do a bake out on that aggregate every morning, the first load, just to dial that in, because 0.5% off and you're really changing things up a lot, and it's so sensitive. So that really helped us be consistent there. But I mean, if the producer doesn't truly understand the moisture in the aggregates, then it's really just a crapshoot. I mean, I think a lot of them have it dialed in, but what you're doing is solving problems to get down to that nitty gritty.
Just trying to get people tools, you know what I mean? So you can get consistent concrete. And we find that once you get it dialed in, you can keep it. I mean, people can keep it really dialed in. You know what I mean? So it's not like you have to do this test every day, all the time. You just got it, just like you said, just like the cook-off, but you just dial it in. And this does just not just rock and sand. This will do everything. It cooks everything. So it's pretty powerful. And I'm super pumped about the 3D printing we're doing. I think it's a game changer. I really do. I think it's a concrete game changer, and I think it's going to change a lot of stuff. What else are we doing that's awesome? We're doing some really cool plastic shrinkage stuff. You guys get a lot of plastic shrinkage cracking up there?
Oh man, no? I've gotten caught with my pants down. I don't know how many times.
Have you?
I mean, it is we're pretty lucky with a humid environment. Yeah. I say low humidity is always a silent killer, because we're so used to 80% humidity, and you get a day where it's down to 40 or 50, and it really changes that surface.
It does a lot. We've been doing a lot of work on that plastic shrinkage cracking, and we've got some really cool tools to help people with that. And we've been doing a lot of fiber work where we compare fibers to one another. Not all fibers are the same. No. They're not. And we've been looking at how they impact cracking, right? So not about strength, about how good can it keep those cracks small? Because in the end, I think that's pretty important. I think that's what fibers, they do a lot of stuff, but that's one thing that they do really, really well. What else are we doing? That's pretty cool. We're doing some crazy stuff. We're using X-rays to watch chlorides and other stuff like that, ions penetrate concrete. but we're doing it in real time, and we're using dental equipment. So usually the stuff that you would use to scan your teeth, okay, we're using it to scan concrete, and we can watch in real time the salts penetrate into the concrete. It's freaking crazy, okay, what we can do. But it's what you say, why would you ever do that? Well, because if you want to talk about how curing impacts permeability or fly ash or anything else that you ever want to do, there's a way to quantify it. Once you can quantify things, people will start to believe you. Instead of just saying, yeah, it's worse, it's better. You say, oh, no, 20% better. And it just increased the life by 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, things like that. So those are all things that we're excited about. And then we've been doing something else called the C-Tag, called the Concrete Tag. We're working with Georgia DOT. So there, instead of writing on your cylinders with like a marker, this is a sticker that goes on the outside of the form and the inside of the form, and it bonds to the concrete. So once they demold the concrete, there's like this barcode that's bonded to the surface of the concrete. And you scan it with your phone, and you have an app. You type in all your information, your slump, your strength, your whatever, and it goes up to their big AASHTO-aware platform. They're like eye in the sky that controls everything, it watches everything, the big data stuff. So we're helping them with their big data analysis of all the concrete things. So those are some cool things that we're doing. And then the Tarantula curve, maybe you've heard me talk about that before.
Yeah.
For mix design. Boy, we have got some Tarantula curve breakthroughs. Okay, Tarantula curves having babies. Okay, we got some more stuff, more curves coming out, and more things coming out. We've been doing a lot of stuff with man sand, and we've been turning the Tarantula curve into like a full meal deal mix design. And then also we've been doing a lot of stuff on reclaimed ash. You know, I heard people say like fly ash is going away. Oh, that's not.
Right. We got to do something with it.
We're gonna have more ash than you'll ever dream of. Okay, it's gonna take a little bit, but we're gonna have plenty of ash.
Yeah, the issue right now is the quality of the ash, correct? And
yeah, well, I think some power plants are shutting down. And so, but we've been, there's 100, I don't know if you know this or not, there's 130 years of ash supply in the ground right now that's high quality that we already know of. That's stuff we know of. It's like oil, you know what I mean? Like you say like, oh, we got 50 years supply of oil. And they always find like, oh, we got 100 years supply of oil now, right? It's the same thing with this ash, right? This is ash that a lot of times, I mean, we started really using ash in about 1985, 1986 in concrete, like really using ash in concrete. And so before that, burned a lot of coal. And where did that ash end up? Landfills. Okay. So people are actually going back and coring those landfills and taking that stuff out. And it's the best ash you've ever seen in your life. Okay? It's good stuff. So
I'm so jealous of all the stuff you got to do, man. All that C-Tag, that is again, you are a problem solver, man.
Thanks, dude.
I sat down years ago with Jay Shillstone.
Yeah.
And I had this idea of putting a QR code on batch tickets so that when it showed up to be tested, you'd scan that code, you input slump, air, and then boom, it went to the ready mix producer, it went to the contractor. And I just thought it was the slickest thing ever. And Jay goes, we already have that. Or something similar,
Yeah.
But I think it was a little resistance from the ready mix industry of getting too much information out so accessible. I'm sure that was probably the fight back, but I thought I was on to something. But that C-Tag is something that's pretty good. But
thanks, man.
So that's awesome, man. You got anything for me,
brother? Thank you for being you. Thank you for bringing your passion and your curiosity and just your energy to our industry. We're lucky to have you, and I'm lucky to have you as a friend. I mean that. And if you're ever in Oklahoma, man, we gotta get some cheese fries from Eskimo Joe's and get you to my lab so you can kind of see what's going on. And I don't know if you're going to be at ACI or not coming up, but it would be good to catch up next time.
Yeah. I'm not really allowed when I took this job, because we only have offices in Lincoln, Omaha, Kansas City. To do anything nationally was one of the things that got cut. I did get to stick around with ACI Nebraska. I'm their executive secretary, so I'll be around for a while on that avenue. But those national trips are going to be cut a little bit short for me, which is a little bit sad. I miss a lot of the colleagues I'd see once or twice a year, and just hearing all the cool cutting edge stuff coming up. You'd bring it back and people would be like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, pervious concrete, man. Water goes through this stuff,
It's cool. It
just
is really
crazy.
cool.
But
Well,
yeah,
you should.
that was a lot of fun, man. And thanks once again, for just taking time to hang out with me. I appreciate it.
No problem, brother.
All right, Concrete Nation, help us out here. Get out there and share this episode with another concrete enthusiast. Spread the love. This is Jeremy Montgomery, aka the Birdman. Have a safe and productive day.